Today's Keyforge Super Sunday. We have JayPower versus Dammat96. And I've once again have a different co-commentator today. I've been kind of going around everyone. And today, do you want to introduce yourself? Who I've got with me today?
Yeah, sure. Hey, how you doing? This is Eric, aka Justice Blinded. I am on. I mean, most people who have listened to Cast of Keyforge probably know who I am, but for the few of you who might not, I'm on Team Knowledge is Power with one of our competitors today. So I will keep my broadcaster hat on as best I can, but obviously have a small green interest there. But just good to be aboard, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Like, I think that's what's been nice about like the Keyforge Premier Leagues. We've seen a lot of players playing each other who might not have normally seen each other play each other, and we're also going to have like a lot of casters casting together who wouldn't have cast together otherwise. So it's nice just to have
Hey,
cooperation across the board, really.
I'm all about it. I've done cast with, I don't know, probably 24 different people
Hmm.
so far in my Keyforge casting career. So I'm always happy to get new perspectives, hang out, chat. It's gonna
Yeah,
be fun.
I think I
Looking
think
forward to it.
I think you'll bring me up to around dozen here as well. So yeah, I'm kind of expanding my horizons sort of thing here. But yeah, always nice to do. So we're going to do what we usually do here on Screech Bomb commentaries, which is we're going to do a bit of a deck chat. So the first decks we're going to look at is going to be J Power's decks. And the first one we'll talk about is FR Talk Rune of the Streetwise Deep. So
Gotcha.
first thing that I noticed in this deck was the Saurian, and when I see double Trick Semper, double Tribute, double Six Semper Tyrannosaurus, definitely gonna get very excited about that because that is going to be brutal to play into. And you look at that first, and then either side of it, you've got a pretty nasty Dis, triple Infernus with a Hysteria too, just gonna be able to play down those Infernuses, get rid of so many cards from your opponent's deck, whether it's like just for pips for the Ember control or just because they're useful cards you don't want them to have. And then also the Star Alliance nice as well. So you've got Commoffs of Kirby's to play some like kind of whether it's like artifacts like your Keys to Dis out or your kind of like you're using a Hysteria with a double Kirby get more out, or also doing it with stuff like kind of Transport Platform and Kirby's Blaster. Just all three houses, just absolutely kind of like the quintessence of what you want to see from these kind of houses in this deck.
Yeah, I mean, so we call this deck Streetwise, and I think it's kind of the consensus of our team that this is probably one of the best Worlds Collides deck that has been printed.
Hmm.
Um, it, I mean, like obviously there are a lot of others in the discussion, but like we'll throw Streetwise up against just about any other Worlds Collide deck because of a lot of the things that you mentioned. The power spiking combos in all of the houses, like the Kirby Blaster platform, Tabor, Medic, like all that nonsense. The double tribute, double Six Semper is obviously the peak level of nonsense for the deck when you can, just take everything away
Yeah.
and then put it in your own pool. Triple Infernus plus Hysteria in Dis, so that can get very nonsensical in terms of like recursion, purging effects, and all of that nonsense. The one thing I will say about Streetwise is that it is not very. It has some card efficiency in it, and by that I mean it will draw cards like the Star Alliance mostly with the Kirby's in the Blaster, but like it doesn't have archiving to put. I mean, it has a Rock Grub. That's literally the only thing it archives in the deck. So
Yeah.
it has no ability to filter hand. It has the ability to draw a bunch of cards, but there are runouts with this deck where you can have a card sequencing issue where you don't get what you need when you need it, and you don't have a lot of ways to like fix that immediately. Now that said, there are so many tools in the deck that I'm not sure matters, but that occasionally is a problem.
No, definitely. I think this is just a brutal one to run into. You've got like because it's the kind of it's decks like this you see like big and small Ember controllers also difficulty whereby on the one hand you can't like just kind of stick to like a little bit of Ember because you're gonna get hit with a tribute.
Yeah,
But then we've got Infernuses on the other side too. You just kind of have it's just so hard to kind of like play into that. But
for
that
sure.
but second deck we'll look at then is Q Think Latagil, which I mean you look at the Dis, and this is kind of like Mass Mutation Dis. A lot of people are saying is kind of the most powerful Dis has ever been, And the cards here, I mean, you got 2 more Infernuses, Ettin's Jar, Grim Reminder to bring back those Infernuses once you've played them, and then double Mark of Dis is always horrible to play into. But Sanctum, I would say kind of like, Sanctum not a strong house, particularly in MM, but with a Dark Emberbolt and an Orb of Wonder, possibly one of the best cards in the game where you can just crack it, find the best card in your deck for the situation and play it. Absolutely incredible. Dark Emberbolt, 8 mutants, so a bit to kind of take on. Not the best stab you'll ever see, but still pretty nice in giving this deck the speed that it might not have had otherwise. And then finally an Untamed that, it's got so many things you need to remove. It's got, Cephalotist often can crush a deck. Dark Fairy, really problematic. Double Fandangle, really gross. And Key Frog, in the right circumstances, you really need to get that off the board before you can forge with it. So just a deck with loads of things you need to answer, and generally a deck will have maybe be able to answer some of them, but you'll very rarely find a deck that can answer all of them.
Yeah, Fink is extraordinarily gross. I just saw the. Do you want me to reveal? Do you want me to take into account what the bans are when having conversations about decks?
Oh yeah, we certainly can do. Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
Okay, well, no, the only reason is like I could talk for a while about Fink, but Fink got banned.
Okay,
so
cool.
so I will only say that it is supremely nonsensical. It has a ton of tools. Is one of the best mass mutation decks that we've come across, but it's not being played this round. So
it is not. Cool.
So
we'll leave it there then and move
swiftly a little bit of time.
To be swiftly on to Mother Surfer Domitius, which a cool name. I'm liking that name. That's very, very nice. Yeah. And it's AOA, so no Kota in this setup, and it is a Heart of the Forest deck. A very controversial card for a lot of people. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Like, it's not the kind of like the way that I tend to play, but I respect people who can have decks that can really utilize it and know how to kind of think around it. It's an impressive card. But even outside of that, this deck, when you've got 2 interdimensional grafts as well as a Knowledge's Power and quite a lot of archiving here, like I think a lot of people don't actually think of AOA logos as being able to archive, but this, you got the Archimedes, the Hexions, the memory chips, the lab works, definitely an ability to set up a really big Knowledge's Power. And Sanctum, my favorite house, Equalize, great against the big Saurian board. If you kind of like got it all spread around, you want it on one small creature, or move it all onto someone's Ludo, can be a great one to do. And as well, double Orbade the Grim, just to be able to spread out your own big kind of Capture of Amber on an Orbade onto kind of like other creatures, say like 10 Tadlins you don't mind losing, can be really powerful to do.
Yeah, so Mother is the one of the more interesting Heart of the Forest decks. Jason, who's my teammate who's playing in this, JayPower is playing in this matchup, is kind of like the godfather of Heart of the Forest in competitive Keyforge. He owns most of the good Heart of the Forest decks that are in circulation, and he has had eons and eons of experience playing these decks. We can talk. We have about 10 minutes, so I want to make sure we save some time for Dammat's decks. But just very briefly, there's a lot of nuance to this particular deck depending upon the matchup. It depends on kind of like what your opponent brings to the table. The very first matchup we're going to see is this deck against a deck with a ton of artifact control. So for those of you in chat or out there who like to see Heart of the Forest get like nuked off the planet, you're gonna see that game 1. But game 2, we'll see what happens if he ends up playing it. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is going to be a very, very hard matchup for a very, very hard game for Jason to win game 1. I mean, we could switch over to Damats, and I can show you what I mean.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, we'll look at Damats now.
Start with Wadsworth because that's directly what I prefer to.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
So this is so Wadsworth is Worlds Collide deck that it looks like is going to be our first matchup in this game, in this match. Excuse me, our first deck matchup between Wadsworth and Mother. And you can see right away what I mean when I was saying that Jason's gonna have some problems with facing this deck, as Wadsworth has two hard R, right? it's got a rating of 3, but 2 pieces of hard R. It's got a Hawk and a Poltergeist.
Mm-hmm.
And aside from that, it has power spiking combos, it looks like, in Saurian, Rex, Spiral, plus Philosophosaurus, Legionary for protection, Pompidus for protection, and then, a bunch of Steel and Shadows, double Fair Game. I've never seen a double Fair Game deck. That should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, a fair game is definitely one that's really that Dammat used to go fair. It can be a risky card because, as with any card that kind of discards your own cards, sometimes if you hit, say, like a Poltergeist or a Hawk without a fair game, that could really set you back, especially against a Heart of the Forest deck. Similarly, it's also a rigged lottery as well.
So that is true. That's a very good observation. That'll be one of these like very risky plays that he probably shouldn't make if he hasn't seen either piece of his artifact control.
Yeah, a good point from Dave in the chat too, though. Especially against I think this deck is really good against this Heart of the Forest deck. For a fair game can potentially force your opponent's Ember up as well, so you can force them above the Heart of the Forest where they normally want to be forging for, force them onto that second key, get you the win there. Similarly, you've got kind of Saurians in this deck, which kind of exalt, and if you run it into something, can maybe get some Ember into your opponent's pool with that as well. So I think this deck's got a lot of answers to Heart of the Forest here.
It does, yeah. This is by far the worst matchup for Heart among the triad that Dammat has, for sure. No question. So, I mean, anything can happen. It's Keyforge, right?
Indeed, it can, yeah.
But you never know.
So from the bans as well, we've seen that K Miller has been banned. We'll kind of briefly go over it. What do you? Me and Callum talked about this a few times. We've cast him out quite a few times, and we would say this is kind of like your quintessential Kota Rush. This is like almost distilled to its very essence. You've got such good speed in Logo, such good Steel in Shadows, and such good burst in Untamed with those key cheats.
Yeah. I mean, I use the phrase peak Kota nonsense a lot when describing decks, perhaps too often. But if there was ever a deck for which that phrase was appropriate, it is this deck. With double Hunting Witch, Flaxia Chota, double Nature's Call Key Charge, plus a Logos House that archives, right? You have 3 versions of lab work, and you have an Archivist, and you have triple Mother to draw more. And, oh, by the way, you have a Shadows House that also steals a whole bunch. Fagin Triple Lurch, double Ghostly Hand. It's got 15 print. Like, this has been one of the more obscene decks on paper and in reality for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Ever since Kota was released. I remember seeing this deck. I think I saw this deck a couple times. I don't remember if it was I don't know that I saw it at tournaments, but I've seen it be played online before, and it is just dumb. It is really stupid.
Yeah, I always mean to do the maths with this and just work out, because I'm fairly sure you might just forge 3 keys in a turn with this deck, kind of with a combination of Nature's Calls, Flaxias, Hunting Witches, various other things. One of these days I'll work it all out and see, but yeah, it's...
There's a run out, there's a perfect draw where I think you can get, potentially, like if you had Hunting Witch, Nature's Call, like...
Flaxia and a Chota, you could get 2.
Or if you somehow have that 7-card hand, like you could immediately win the game. Obviously, that's somewhat unlikely turn 1, but you have lab works to filter. So yeah, there's all sorts of dumb stuff that happens with this deck.
100%. Yeah, it's the kind of deck where like sometimes you'll just run into this, and I imagine this might be why Jay banned it, where you just can't do anything. Like this just gets a draw that you cannot do anything to stop, and it just wins because it's drawn things in the right order.
So having inside information on his banning decisions, I could tell you that there were very interesting considerations going into his banning decisions, and we could save discussion of that with him until after the round. Yeah. But there were multiple reasons why this deck was banned. One of them, of course, is that it is obscenely bursty and powerful and strong and just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to the deck that's not been banned here as we talk about Lila la Special de la Biblioteca Baladina.
Yeah, so this is, I have not seen this deck in detail before, but just glancing at it, it looks like it has a bunch of the power spiking mass mutation stuff. It has Dark Amber Vault with 8 mutants, which is, I think, above average and pretty good for a DAV deck.
Sorry, that has my jaw go. If you could talk about this for a little while, I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Sure, no problem. So it also has a Shadows House that has double bow nithing. Let me look at the enhancements of this thing. What are the enhancements? Okay. So one of the bone I think does a draw. One of the red penny has a capture and a draw. That's an interesting one. All right, fair enough. And it's got transporter platform and Star Alliance with double New Frontiers. Not a whole bunch of platform abuse other than bouncing a subject Kirby, which is definitely a thing to play an extra creature. And it's got a couple of upgrades. One of the upgrades is negative, but you could still play it before you bounce just for the extra bounce. You could also platform a Bonithing on an off-house turn. Like, that is slightly inefficient, but it does do some things. It's got 7 extra draw enhancements. It's got a fair amount of creature removal. It seems just kind of like an overall fairly balanced, straightforward mass mutation deck that has a ton of different things. And as Dave's pointing out, it does have bouncing Death Quark and a penny, so you can have some off-house synergistic combos in that sort of situation. But yeah, there's just a lot of good average card value in this particular deck. No one completely obscene combo. It doesn't have Safe House, so the Bona things are good, but not like out of this world spectacular. It doesn't have Nell, so the platform abuse isn't out of this world spectacular. And it has 8 mutants, which, like I said, is good, but not like amazing. That being said, you combine all those things together, and you get a deck that definitely can hang in there, and I would imagine will be fairly competitive.
Yeah, I think the big thing about this deck back now is it's just the utility. I mean, I think the one thing it's missing maybe is kind of artifact control. Is the thing it really needs, but like everything else, it's got speed from the dab. It's got kind of ways to deal with the board with some like bouncing Death Quark, and it's the kind of thing where you can just go through it so quickly to find answers so quickly that is really the kind of big thing that it does really effectively.
Yep. So I mean, those are. I mean, obviously, Heart would match up. Mother, the Heart deck, would match up a lot better against this deck than the deck it's going to be playing first. So, if Heart doesn't do great game 1, then we may see that matchup game 2, although he could always decide to switch. I shouldn't really talk as if Heart is a sure loss, because Jason is... I don't really think there's a lot of argument that Jason is the most skilled player in Heart of the Forest decks on the planet, simply because he has approximately 100 times more reps, I think, than anyone else on the planet. So, I mean, if there's anyone who could figure out a way to do this, if he gets favorable draws, it's him. But it will be rough. I'm anticipating this game will be very rough.
For sure, yeah. I think this is the thing. I think the Heart is very likely to be able to get a win over this deck. So it might come down to kind of this deck against what is JayPower, what is Streetwise, and I think that could be a really interesting game. It's just whether they're kind of like the speed of this deck can overcome kind of like the big Ember control, and it's the Infernus is going to be an interesting one there too, because the Infernus might, in some ways, you've got to be careful not to kind of thin down this deck so much that it becomes even faster and you just keep hitting the things you need over and over again.
In terms of the counterplay in Streetwise, you're saying?
Exactly, yeah, because it's the kind of thing where you've got a fast deck like this that like cycles a lot, is that when you're like purging a lot, you've kind of got to be careful of what cards you're purging, because if you say leave like Bonithings and Rad Pennies in the deck, and that's kind of like a lot of what's left in the deck, and you're just getting around to that over and over again, that's also in a really rubbish situation. Whereas if you've got, say, like, I don't know, like you like Ensign El Samra and kind of Teleport Chief Tink that are being cycled over and over again, you're in a lot better position, and it's going to be really careful with that Infernus play.
If we get to the Streetwise matchup, I think the lack of scaling steel in this deck will make a big difference. But that's like we're looking forward to like potential game 3 matchups.
Yeah.
We're not even there yet.
We're definitely not. But I think the players are ready to rumble though. The game has been made, so we'll join that and see if all our theorizing has been correct or not. So here we go. Seeing some nice asking each other how people's weeks have went. Some nice sportsmanship from both players. Always happy to see that. As we are ready to rumble with the first game. So I would ask you who you think is going to win this matchup. I feel you're very much in the JayPower camp on this one.
Well, yeah, it'd be fair to say I have a fair amount of bias in this. I do think it's going to be 2-1. I'll pick my boy because why wouldn't I? But I think it'll be 2-1. I think he'll lose the first game, and the second game, absent nonsense, he should win, and then the third game will be very interesting.
Indeed, yeah, I'd agree with that. I can kind of see how that's how it's going. I think, like we've said, this is a tough matchup for a Heart of the Forest deck, but we will certainly see how that goes. So seeing some good luck from both players, nice bit of sportsmanship. As we have Dammat on the top of the screen playing B.E. Wadsworth, Arciero della Schettissimo, and we have JayPower on the bottom of the screen playing Mother Surfers Domitus. Dammat is going first, keeping his hand. JayPower going for a mulligan there, back down to 5. Dammat going
Yeah,
this.
so one of the interesting things in this matchup is going to be whether Jason tries, because Mother is a decent deck that can win without Heart of the Forest. Mm-hmm. So he may just be trying to, because it has Full Moon, Nature's Call, Chota.
Yeah, it's like no slouch at all.
So he may just be trying to rush.
Yeah.
And he can pivot and change strategy mid-game depending upon what he sees, whether or not the artifact control comes out. But I would expect to see him just trying to run out as fast as he can. So he gets Seed out.
He does, yeah. We've seen some Saurians coming out from Dammat here as well. Odoak and Quested Charter. No stealing in the deck as far as I can see, other than that Cutthroat Research. So not the most useful Odoak, but Witch the Wilds, a nice card to get out here. Yeah, to get some extra untamed cards out.
That's a big card, especially if he. It looks like he is at least initially taking that approach. And the reason, in terms of rushing, and the reason you know that is because he played Full Moon rather than discarding it.
Yeah.
It's only a difference of 1 amber, but it's a pretty good indication. He discards Rig Lottery. Okay, that was one of the things I was wondering about, whether or not we were going to see him risk playing those sorts of cards. Because if you play Rig Lottery and you lose both pieces of your artifact control, you may insta-lose the game. Although, there are still other factors, but
yeah, I think you might play the fair game, but you're not going to play the Rig Lottery, just because if it changes how JayPower's going to play as well, right? Because if you see, say, the Hawk going, or you see the Poltergeist going, it's going to change completely how you're thinking about the game. If you see that away.
And the other factor is that Jason has boarded a Seed, right? He has Seed on the board, so discarding 5 cards off the top of his deck is even worse, because if you discard a piece that he needs, he can immediately seed for it to get it back.
That's very true. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's a really, really actually interesting thing to think of. Yeah, I think that must have come into Dammat's thinking too. But we are going to see a VMOS Lightbringer remove the ward from the Quested Charter, which is of course elusive. And that's VMOS Lightbringer's effect to destroy each elusive creature. And Jay having a bit of a think here, just trying to work out where to go, but goes for the Grey Rider. Going to fight into something here. May fight the Bren, just get it rid of it early when there's only 1 Ember.
So that would have been an interesting play. I think he's going for Odoak.
Just to return it to hand.
Oh, to Nature's Call. Oh, right. So we wanted to play. That makes sense.
Yep, and returning the Brand as well, so kind of forcing to give him another Ember if he puts it back down. And also do 1 of each house.
Yeah, this is a solid start. This is probably the way that he has to go in order to win.
Yeah.
Right? He has to push it and then see how Dammat. Is it Dammat or Dammat? How do you pronounce it?
I say Dammat, but I don't know if I've been correct. I've not been corrected so far, so I'm sticking with it. But
gotcha.
Yeah, I think the thing to hear is as well that JayPower's do quite intelligently is Nature's calling back 1 creature of each house, which Dammat's deck isn't the fastest to begin with. It's not got great card draw, so you're kind of just slowing that deck down and stopping it getting into a position to do exactly what it wants to do, which is really good.
Now, the danger here is that Spiral is on the board. So in the event that Dammat can find Rex, then, it gets kind of out of control. He's already played Philo, warded Philo behind Taunt, and got a Philo hit. So we'll see if Rex comes out. Now, of course, one of the strategies, if you're playing against Rex, one of the strategies Jason could pivot to is trying to remove his creatures from the board, which will immediately kill Rex.
So one thing that's worth noting here as well, I don't know if you spot it, is the Nepenthe was used to return Nature's Call to JayPower's hand, but he didn't then play it. So that is still
Yeah,
in his
well,
hand.
right. And I think that's because at any point in time going forward, you would expect that there's going to be artifact control, especially now that he's got a Philo on board that's online. You would expect there's going to be artifact control occurring
It's
in like from across the
I think
table.
what you might actually see here though is you might see quite you are not seeing here. I was expecting we maybe see quite an exciting Sanctum turn where you could have returned the VMOS Lightbringer, for example, with that Nature's Call, played it again to get rid of that Quest of Jata, maybe also return a Grey Rider if you want to fight again. You could have done some interesting things with that, but that's not happening. He is in fact using it to return the Quest of Jata, Odoak, and other Odoak.
Yes, he's going for hand disruption. The problem is the double Philo hits every turn. Make the bouncing stuff to hand not nearly as effective for turn and hand disruption as it normally would be.
No, and of course the Dammat can just play down those Odoaks back again. So all it's really doing is kind of like delaying it a bit, and they are just going to recapture that Ember.
Yeah.
But we've seen the Philosophosaurus reap twice this turn, so going to be doing a bit of archiving here, getting through the deck. This is really Dammat's only kind of source of speed here, but using it very effectively to get rid of that Chimeral Eclipse and Pestering Blow.
Yeah, I wonder. Well, we'll see what else he can put down here. Oh, he's got Pompatus. Okay. All right. So I wonder if we're going to see a Sanctum turn here, or I guess you could do it in Logos too, where he fights in and clears away a bunch of this stuff. Sanctum is better depending upon what he has in hand because he's got a Grey Rider next to a Titan mechanic.
Yeah.
So I think he probably wants to do something about this board state if he can.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're most likely to see some Sanctum here. I think like maybe fight the VMOS into the Tricerian Legionary, Grey Rider the Titan mechanic into the Tribune. Oh, but we are going to see that Lion Bountram get taken out.
So the sad thing here is that he lost one of the really interesting counterplays to this deck. He lost the card on turn 1 because he had to play it to cycle, which is Equalize. Equalize in this run out here is actually quite interesting.
It would have been, yeah, very effective. But we are going to see Orbade the Grim to knock them out off check, capturing 3. Plays a ball down the Redeemed as well.
Okay. What could he have it Untamed? Oh, he's got a Mimicry in deck.
He's already played a Tantadlin with the Witch of the Wilds this turn.
Oh, he played. Okay, I didn't catch that.
Not a problem. That's why there's 2 of us, man. It's all good.
He's fighting out Philosophosaurus.
Yeah, and takes out that Tribune Pompatus, which I think we expected to see. But a big board here for JayPower.
Yeah. It gets a little interesting. Well, it gets very interesting if he happened to have drawn Rex in like the 3 cards that. I mean, I guess he could take 2 hits right here and try to draw Rex right now. Yeah. What does he have in the way of Scaling Steel?
I think
he has a TMTP.
He has a TMTP, indeed, yeah. And a couple of Ronnie wrist locks, which isn't really scale, but it's like it's a good kind of like if you've got a high amount of Ember, you can get 2 with that. So
yeah. So one of the strategies. Let me look and see what he's got. What does he have in Shadows? Does he have anything in Shadows that can get rid of his own board into a TMTP?
No safety in numbers. If he plays both no safety in numbers, yes, he could clear his whole board with that.
That's true. So Jason has to be careful to try to play around that and not have.
We've also got 4 cards in the archives at this point as well. So there's been quite a bit of filtering going on for Dammat. You've got to wonder what's in there, whether he's maybe like playing in towards that. He's exalting the Philosophosaurus a lot here. So I think you've got to be a bit concerned if you're JayPower about that.
You 100% assume that he has at least 1 piece of artifact control in archive or in hand. Doesn't matter.
Definitely, yeah.
So I mean, he just has to probably run at this point. I mean, he's in a decent position to run. Like in terms of board clears, the no safety in numbers would do some work on this board. Double would obviously do a lot of work, but I think just 1 would do some work. But he already discarded or got rid of the Harbinger, so he doesn't have a pure board clear.
We do see that fighting the Witch of the Wilds there, stopping that Untamed card being played every turn from the Odoak the Patrician. And it's an interesting question of whether we're going to see the Cincinnatus Rex here. With the Golden Spiral already down, I think it's unlikely.
He doesn't. He definitely didn't have it before.
No,
I don't think he had it before before he activated Philo the first time, because I think he probably would have used Spiral on that. Although Mother, they don't get played as often, but Mother does have 2 copies of Graph, right? So
it's very true. Yeah.
Played Spiral if you played Rex into that, it could get very ugly in terms of swingy stuff and require. Like there is a scenario where you could have Jason play Graft, take a bunch of Amber, then have TMTP in response, and then have Jason play Graft again.
Yeah.
Like that's
which
like
be...
that's now the one thing with that is
you do let Dammat forge 2 keys there, which
you would have to start like now.
Yeah. I think it's initial. It's going to be interesting. So we're going to go logos here. Memory chip is played down.
Okay.
Cutthroat Research. I mean, with the 2 auto-acts, can't do anything right now. But if you take those out, that's 2 Ember you could potentially steal here. Not something you often see with the Cutthroat Research. Not been played yet. But do you see that? Yeah, fighting the Philosophosaurus. So I'm assuming not going to see a Cutthroat Research then. It's just...
So my guess is that Jason likely has access to 1 or more of the graphs. I mean, odds say that's true, but like he likely has or will have at the end of his turn have access to 1 of the graphs.
Yeah.
Because he needs to guard against a TMTP occurring next turn. If he does not have access to either of those things, then he has to be very careful in this. I mean, he might just have to play for it. Even if he doesn't have it, he might have to play for drawing it.
So interesting here, we see the Archimedes fight the Autoac, the Patrician. So obviously
I think he's trying to... My instinct is he's trying to bait TMTP.
I think so, yeah.
That's my guess.
I like 10 Ember. 10 Ember is a lot. It's a lot of Ember in JayPower's pool. It's going to be a tempting TMTP target. But I think if you're Dammat, you've got to be thinking then in response, though, why is he doing this? The reason he's presumably doing this is because he's got a graft, and it's whether you want to play into that. It's an interesting...
Well, I mean, I mean, even if that happened, he would get to key 2, presumably. So it's not as if he wouldn't still be in a decent position, and his odds for getting graft counterplay are only going to go up the further the game goes on. Like they're not 100% now, but they will be 100% in like 1 or 2 more turns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at a certain point in time, you just have to probably lean into it. But
you do. You do, definitely. Yeah, I guess the thing with you maybe you're looking at with Dammat is you're saying, well, if he grafts me, at least I'm getting my second key. And actually, if you TMTP's here, you're TMTPing up to 6. You know,
I think you have to play TMTP here if you have it, unless you have something substantially different. And the reason why is, if you don't, Jason has 2 key cheats in his deck, right? So if you don't play 2 TMTP here, then he could, in theory, get into... Let's see, what does he have left in terms of Untainted? He's got
the Tentacle on the board.
Shota. Okay, so maybe he can't actually... Oh,
Dammat
he
having
shoots
some...
the archive and disappear.
Going for Shadow, so I've got to think TMTP might be coming out.
No, I think you have to play it here.
Yeah.
But this is actually a decent spot for Jason to have forced him into.
Especially with the Orbe the Grim, I don't think there's any way in Logos to get rid of that before you TMTP, because that would be useful.
Shadows?
No, I'm just thinking, because you've got 3 Ember on the Orbe, so if you're going to TMTP, you'd want to put that Ember back into the Dammat's pool before you do that. So plays the Brend.
Man, if he plays into this, like plays hard into...
And we see the steal of 5.
He's playing hard into this line.
I don't necessarily... I think it's going to depend on what we do the rest of the turn here, because 8... Okay, he's going to go into 9, get rid of that memory chip. Okay, then I think he definitely is here then, yes.
So, like, but the thing is, if he plays... Okay, so he played no safety in numbers. If he plays like Ronnie... Oh, I do not agree with this at all.
Yeah, this is bold by Dammat.
It's hyper aggressive.
Yeah.
The problem is that like you just use your scaling steel.
Yeah.
So now 100% you're gonna see.
We're gonna see Grafty. Yeah, I am surprised he went to that much Ember here.
Right, and he kills Brent, and then it's right. Yeah, that's wow. That's
I've got to think that Dammat is maybe thinking of something here. and has a solution to this. But like you say, with the amount of
Well,
key
I mean,
cheats
he's
that Jay
right?
has,
He's ahead, so
Mhm.
it's not as if he's dead in the water onto that
No,
play.
no,
But
not at all.
I don't agree with the piling on the
I guess
shadow.
I think what we're going to see actually here, we're going to see Dis. We've got an Evil Eye to kind of like bump up that key cost up to 9 at least here. I think that's definitely going to happen. So it's going to leave JayPower with 4 Ember, which is still like a lot of Ember after 1 key, but I think that's going to be the thing. And Buzzle here is going to take out that Orbate the Grim as well, start to get that Ember back. I think maybe he was just kind of saying like, I'm just going to play out all my Shadows cards. I know I've got a good Dis turn next.
He's advantaged in terms of the amber count and the board state. So like, it's not a ridiculous thing to just say, listen, it's going to happen. We just got to go.
Mm-hmm.
But Jason has got some counterplay here.
Assuming we see the Evil Eye here, and maybe an Exhume to hit a Ronnie too, we could see Dammat going kind of back up to like 7 Ember, and JayPower kind of forging for 9 and being left with 1. Very potentially here.
I mean, if he has all of those things.
Yeah. I mean, he's been archiving a lot. He's been drawing a lot. I think we see an Exhume here. I think Ronnie risk locks. Here you go up to 7.
That's pretty big.
So I think this very much seems like I think Dammat kind of thought he's gonna have to graft at some point. I've got the Dis in hand to deal with this in a way that's still advantageous to me. Let's go.
Yeah, I think again, I think you just have to play the TMTP earlier when that line was up, just because. Although I don't agree with the extra steal on that, but he was far enough ahead that it probably doesn't matter.
I maybe wouldn't have played the Brand is the one thing. I think like that seemed maybe like you could have just discarded that. It was somewhat unnecessary to do it in the same turn.
I think he's contemplating a fair game here. I'm not sure, but I think he is. And I will say, if he has Poltergeist in his hand, then playing a fair game here is fine. If he does not have Poltergeist in his hand, playing a fair game is...
Do you see the fair game? Very, very astute there.
He reveals Poltergeist, so he has Poltergeist.
Yeah, but he's also revealing JayPower's.
Now, here's the one thing I will say. The one thing I will say is that you are... so he has Heart. So Jason has Heart.
Jason has Heart, but I don't think know how much that can actually benefit him, though, because that's the only... It buys him a turn, but it's the only untamed card in his hand.
Discarded Mimicry off the top of his deck. God, that is gross.
That's brutal, yeah.
That's gross, because then he could have copied...
I think Exhume would have been a good one, because I think...
He could have copied TMTP, and then...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he could have done... Yeah, that's very true.
Control in Untamed, so I don't know that actually... Well, TMTP, and then if he had, like, a key cheat, I guess.
So I think what we're going to see here is we're going to see Dammat hold that Poltergeist and go, if you play Heart of the Forest, I'm just going to Poltergeist it.
If he plays Poltergeist right here, then he should...
I'm very sure he won't.
Way to phrase that, but yeah. I am sure he is not going to play Poltergeist. I mean, because aside from the fact that, like, playing Poltergeist here is just an immediate removal of the only way you win the game if he plays Heart from his hand. He turned over his hand and he has Heart in his hand, right? So, like, if playing Poltergeist here would be right up there with some of the worst mistakes in the history of high level games.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure we won't see that.
Like second fair game.
I think exactly that is exactly it. Maybe thinking about what's in his draw pile, thinking like, is there things I wouldn't want to discard here? Thinking about what is left in JayPower's draw pile, thinking is there things I want to get rid of, and just kind of trying to kind of figure that out. And he's going to discard the second fair game, stick at 9, and
so Jason does have some shit. What else does he have in hand? His Heart,
Persistent Hunting as well.
That's all he... Oh, he drew...
He picked up his archives, and he had Persistent Hunting, presumably in his archives, and I don't know if we say Dis is exhausted, and Wave the Porcupine to reap with Tantadlin, bringing himself up to 9 here.
So there is... So he could draw... I think there are... How many cards did he draw?
He would have drawn 1 card. Because he picked up his archive, he had 6, picked up his archive to pick up 2, played 1 card that he had in his hand, so he's drawn 1 card.
He might be dead regardless.
And we see an Evil Eye, a Poltergeist take out that Heart of the Forest, and I think that might be all she wrote. And I'm not finished with you, just to finish it off here. Presumably bringing back, say, Well, both Ronnie's in hand actually would have liked to have those in the discard, I imagine, to put those back in the draw pile. But I don't think it's going to matter here because I think.
No, this doesn't matter at all. Oh, and that's probably a mistake to put stuff back in your draw pile, but I don't think it matters.
But yeah, and as we do see Dammat take the first game of the matchup as
the mimicry, actually, I think the mimicry hit might have been the difference, but this game was substantial.
I don't know if it would have been purely because if you mimicry the TMTP, you don't have any way in Untamed to knock him off check here.
No, right. But if you could play Heart and then mimicry the same turn, and then you draw Chota, like there's some
true. Yeah, true. Fair enough. Yeah, that could swing actually. Very true. Very true. But okay, we're gonna join into the second game now. So
I fully expect to see Mother playing the more favorable deck here.
Yeah.
The more favorable matchup, I mean.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, and I think.
I mean, we know what Dammat is playing. Dammat's playing.
Yeah, Dammat has one choice. So there we go. And here we go. So yeah, we have JayPower playing Mother and Dammat. So Dammat is on top of your screen playing Lila, La Special de la Biblioteca Ballerina, and JayPower on the bottom of the screen playing Mother, Surford, Domitus once more. So yeah, I think this is going to be a challenging matchup for Dammat. Obviously, no artifact control this time. So if that Heart of the Forest gets out, that can really change the game. Also,
the reality is, let me look at Lila. They have interruption. Sophistry makes you discard a card. Okay.
I think we're leaving this one. Yeah, because we won. JayPower wants to go first.
The mole. Okay.
Not a problem. So let's see. Hopefully, the second game is more favorable in that regard. But yeah, so what were you saying there, Mary?
Sorry, it's fine. I'm just looking at the deck list to see.
Okay.
Yeah. If he boards Heart of the Forest, I don't think it's possible for Dammat to win unless he deliberately stalled to time.
The only thing I can think is you do have some capture in the deck, so there's maybe some ways you can capture a bit and kind of like push it back into JayPower's and force him to forge, but I feel like JayPower's going to play around that sufficiently without won't be a factor. And I think
I think once you play Heart of the Forest, unless something very weird, let's just say it's like a 95% win rate once you board Heart of the Forest in this matchup.
Yeah, so we could be in for the long haul here. That's what we're saying.
Jason plays quick. I don't know Dammat as well, but he seems to play quick.
Oh no, I don't mean in terms of. I mean just in terms of we could be.
That it will be. Yeah, I think.
I don't mean it in terms of like a stalling situation. I just mean it in terms of third time shot.
Oh yeah, again. Yeah, it might take a while.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, we're gonna have to try this again. Dammat, get in. Lucky on the flips here. But I'm sure we'll get there sooner rather than later. No, I think this may be like the reason that some people are kind of like not the biggest fans of Heart of the Forest, because it sometimes can create games that are quite long. I'm quite a big fan of those. I quite like kind of seeing the kind of like the cut and thrust of it. You know, it almost chess-like, kind of like trying to play around it. But I can understand why other people kind of maybe don't find that the most enjoyable. If you want like your kind of high octane Keyforge, you're not gonna always get that from a Heart of the Forest deck.
Yeah.
And
Jen, man, come on, TCO, you gotta put an option in here that you can force. You gotta do it.
I mean, I've seen some players. There's a way you can do it by like adding a couple chains and stuff. I don't fully understand how that happens, but like where you can switch the first player by using chains somehow. There is a way I've seen that done, but yeah, it would be useful to have a button to be like, I would like to be first player, please.
Yeah.
And the other option is you just have one player concede and then do a rematch.
If you do that, it'll boot us out. We won't be able to see it.
Oh, that is the big problem. Yes, very true.
What the heck? Come on, man.
The game just wants Dammat to go first. It's the gods. The gods are like, no, Dammat must go first.
What the heck, man? Come on. What are we at? Are we at 7 now?
I think that might be 6. I feel like I'm not sure.
Come on.
This is your commentary of key coin flipping simulator. No way.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
This is so good. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, here we go. Come on. Like 8 times the charm or whatever it is. Hey,
right,
we did it.
Yeah.
Got there in the end.
Okay. Yay!
When I said we were in it for the long haul, I didn't mean we'd just be here flipping coins for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay, here we go. So we have Dammat on top of the screen playing Lila, La Special de la Biblioteca Ballerina, and JayPower on the bottom of the screen playing Mother Surford Domitius. JayPower going first, Dammat mulliganing going second, and Hard Forest immediately.
And the game is over.
Or is it just
Not
beginning?
really, but like, yeah.
And autoencoder discards Mountain Death Clock, discards an Infomorph, doing a bit of archiving. Discarding the Time Mechanic, playing a Cutthroat Research just for the Ember. I'm in the chat saying, "All right, be back in 35 minutes. Have fun, everyone."
I don't think it'll take 35 minutes, but
No. Discards a Booby Trap, discards a Perplexing Sophistry, and another Perplexing Sophistry. Just building up that archive here to map. Just getting some cards in there. Orbade the Grim, no Ember to capture, and a Lion Bouchtrum. His friend there next to him, another Orbade, and a Vemos Lightbringer. Getting a big board down here.
So, no Scaling Steel opposite Mother in this matchup.
No.
Lila has no Scaling Steel. And the relevance of that is the relevance of that is that when Jason gets to a point that he wants to burst, in order to maybe, key cheat, not maybe, in order to key cheat on a turn that he wants to key, he does not need to worry about Graft or TMTP or anything, or Doorstep or anything of that kind.
Yeah, exactly. So, Dammat playing a Dark Import, having some internet trouble here, but we reconnected immediately, which is good. Discards Titan Engineer, discards Quick, so archive of 7 cards right now. Maybe just like hoping to archive like some mutants, kind of like get a lot of benefit out of that Dark Import once he plays it. Kind of been playing towards that, and we're going to see a reap out from Saurian up to 8, it looks like, with the Grey Rider coming down 2.
Yeah. Also relevant is that Leela has no key cheat card. So if Jason just puts the foot on the gas here, he can get to an amount of amber where it's very, very difficult. I mean, like, Dammat could actually, in theory, very little to no amber. And like try to, I don't know what the end game play is to try to win on time, because he doesn't have Scaling Steel. Like, he could try to play a bunch of Bow Nithings, I guess, but like, yeah, I don't really know. I mean, this is just kind of a...
Yeah, it's a difficult one. We see a red alert just to clear away that big sanction board by Dammat from picking up his Arca to play the Star Alliance. Yeah, I've not really played much in Heart of the Forest in my time playing Keyforge, so I don't really know what you do in this circumstance if you're Dammat.
Yeah, there are a lot of answers that you could theoretically have against Mother. I don't think Leela... I mean, like, once Heart of the Forest is played. Yeah. I don't think Leela has any of those answers, right?
If it had... the transporter platform discarded by the New Frontiers there, that's not something you want to see if you're Dammat at all.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
We do see a Bow Nithing and a Lights Out put into the archive, though, so that's a bit better.
It's getting some steel online, but basically Jason's play here is you don't go to check for key 2 unless you have it, Well, unless you're way ahead, or unless you
Mm.
have everything that you need set up so that you can burst into key 3.
Yeah.
Forge key 2.
But I mean, I think this thing with Dammat is just not forging any keys at the moment here, though he's starting to get creep up towards that first key in this Shadows turn we're having.
The problem is he has 16 printed amber in his deck. So not making amber is somewhat difficult because it involves not playing the majority of your cards.
That would be true, except for the fact that he does have the auto-encoder, so it is perfectly fine just to discard a card and archive something else.
He could do that, right? I mean, that's fine. It's just not like the payoff is... What's the peak payoff in the deck if you archive most of deck? It's like double bonithing, which is okay. But it's, it doesn't... Double bonithing at the very most takes 4, and Jason can just go to a number that's higher than that.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. But we are seeing some Shadows being played here, some Shadows Mutants, getting some card draw coming through for Dammat, and getting him onto check at the moment here. May just stick at this. Plays a Vandalize, though, no, going even higher. I suppose not, other than the Graft, not much Ember control in JayPower's deck, really. Especially you've got those 2 Orbes, which we've already seen, and the Cutthroat Research, which isn't super helpful in this scenario, doesn't stop the Forge. We also see Untamed here now. The Pensie's coming out. Persistence Hunting, going to make those Shadows creatures exhausted, and Dammat forges his first key. 1 key apiece now.
Okay. So, yeah. Plays Seed. So Jason has Seed on the board. The relevance of Seed is, in this particular lineup with this board state against this deck, Seed is likely going to be used for Full Moon. So if you can archive Chota, any other untamed creatures, you key charge, you Seed.
So yeah, we've seen some logos coming out of Dammat, and still got that archive of 7 cards. At least 2 of them we know is a Lights Out and a Bonithing, but don't know the rest of it right now.
Yeah.
But QMX is going to draw a card.
Archiving Hexpion and the top card of deck is actually not a super favorable situation. I don't know that I'd play Bouncing Death Quark here.
Discards it just for that auto-encoder. Discards a Positron Bolt as well. Positron Bolt obviously would have got him a card draw, a capture, and an Ember, but yeah, like you say, clearly Valerie not putting that Hexpion and whatever's in the draw pile into that archive. And yep, discard it. Plays an Adaptoid, so we are going to get a card draw as well because of that. Discards an Infomorph. And archive of 10 here.
Yeah, Jason's trying to find Memory Chip, I think. Because that's the thing that's going to help him set up for the...
Discards the Graft there. So got to assume he's got a second Graft knocking around somewhere, you'd think, if he's doing that.
Maybe. He's got 2, right? So he doesn't have to have 1. And he's trying to find Memory Chip. He wants to archive the stuff, archive the rest of the pieces of the finishing maneuver, if you will.
Yeah, it's interesting he discarded it rather than played it. Is there a reason for that? Or...
Well, I'm trying to look at the deck to see if there's a way that Leela can force Amber down Mother's throat. I mean, because, at this point, plays Equalize. I don't know. I don't actually know. I think it's roughly the same. If he were afraid of having Amber forced down his throat, I'm looking at there are capture. Okay, so there are actually ways. There are capture tips in Leela. So where are they? There's one on Penny. There's one on a Starlight's creature. There's one on a Logos creature.
So just a quick one. Interesting here. Dammat using Lethal Logic here just to mill his entire deck. Didn't hit a single Logos card and presumably knew that before he played it. So he just wanted to flip that deck. And we're also seeing here...
He goes to check, which is... I mean, I don't... As long as Jason plays reasonably well and it doesn't go to time, I don't think that there's a lot of outs. But going to check seems to be...
He's going to get his second key.
Yeah, that's not an excellent... Well, that's actually bad for...
It's interesting though here. We see Dammat is now down to just 4 cards in his discard, 3 cards in his draw. Has archived most of his deck at this point.
Puts Jason completely in control of this game. Because all Jason has to do now is just calling archive a card, discard cards, pass. right? Like, just keep doing that, and for like 6-7 turns, like he has other things he could draw that could make it better.
I think what maybe we're seeing him to Matt is that we do see Positron Bolt in hand here, which has a capture pip on. Maybe he's just trying to like keep capturing Ember, keep putting that in a situation where maybe he can hit that say bouncing Death Quark and push JayPower up to enough Ember potentially.
Right, but that's why you. So you asked earlier, why is Jason discarding stuff with pips on it? That's why.
Okay,
right?
Yeah. So yeah, Dammat having a slight
perplexing. How can rule of 6 perplexing? Dave is saying he can rule of 6 perplexing. How does he get? He's got 2 of them. How does he get them back?
Ooh, I suppose with it depends. With like kind of bone up with like say a Rad Penny, you can kind of like draw a bit. I'm not 100% sure. I suppose like with like mugs and Rad Pennies, you can keep drawing. Oh, they draw a card if they got enhancements.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I guess you could. I mean, if you literally, yes, maybe that's an out. But the thing is, like, Jason is close to having enough stuff in archive probably to be fairly comfortable here. Although
that's an interesting one. I hadn't thought of that.
It's an interesting line. So let's see. Dammat might be having some connection issues.
Yeah. Yeah, Dammat, we've seen this quite a few times with Dammat when I've cast him before. Sometimes his internet is a bit shaky, but he almost always has kind of reconnected fairly swiftly when this does happen. So I think it is quite a usual thing with Dammat, but I've never seen him kind of like drop a game as a result of it. So yeah, here he is, choosing shadows there. And what are we going to hit with the shadows? There is perplexing sophistry, so this may be what Dave was talking about here. Yeah, just needs to archive 7 more cards.
Well, unless one of the sophistries, Dave, is already in archives, and then it's very difficult, if not impossible, to do.
So yeah, maybe that is an interesting one. Yeah, we're going to see if that is what Dammat is kind of angling towards here. We've also got a Bow-Nithing with a draw icon too, which could definitely help with that. Partially just to keep stealing. I mean, we do have both Perplexing Sophistries in the discard here too. So, and with draw icons on both a Rad Penny and a Bow-Nithing, maybe that is what he's looking to do. And yeah, we see Perplexing Sophistry played again, drawing a card. He's just running JayPower out of cards in hand.
Yeah, so it is interesting. But yeah, I would imagine that he's just gonna call Logos just to archive as much stuff as he can.
Mm-hmm.
Discards graft.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be
limit shadows. Yeah.
Yeah. So stopping Dammat from reaping. This is fascinating. I mean, we talked about kind of how we were like struggling to figure out what like a response for Dammat could be with this deck against Heart of the Forest. This is maybe some like innovative play that I would not have expected to see, but seems to be it could work pretty effectively.
He's a couple turns away, I think, from being able to set up the situation. A couple turns away.
He definitely is, yeah, but it's a fascinating one.
Can Jason see that would be relevant? So he could mimicry. If he finds mimicry, he could mimicry something.
Mimicry could be big as well because obviously it would discard something from. Well, I suppose the thing with mimicry at the moment is though, like there's so little in Dammat's discard. What can you hit?
Well, he's okay. Well, yeah, we don't. Well, he's gonna probably leave a sophistry in discard if he goes into Star Alliance. Well, that's interesting.
I mean, all sophistry does for JayPower though is gain to an Ember because I think Dammat is always gonna have more Ember than.
He went into Star Alliance and then called Logos, so he discarded the second sophistry from deck. But he found a draw pile. Okay, so all right.
Oh, but then if he played New Frontiers, he's added Perplexing Sophistry to his archive there though, hasn't he?
he has it. The question is whether Jason got enough cards in archive to stop this.
No, I think he did, because he played New Frontiers to use Shadows, reveal top 2 cards of their deck, which is Perplexing Sophistry, New Frontiers, and Perplexing Sophistry.
I'm saying the first time he did that, he called logos, which doesn't make any sense to me. But, like...
Oh, no, but then because he's got all of his archive, he's going to get his whole deck in hand, and then he can just keep playing Perplexing Sophistry now.
Jason has 6 cards in archive, so it depends on what he has in archive. There is theoretically a run out of cards in archive that he could have.
Mm-hmm.
That would be enough.
What would those cards be then? If you could explain that to me, then that'd be. I'd love to.
Okay, so if he has, because he's got Seed on the board, so if he has Full Moon, Chota, Nature's Call, let's see. So what would you? I could do the math on Full Moon, Chota's, Nature's Call.
But how does he get enough Ember from just one full moon though, right? Because he needs enough Ember to forge 2 keys here, presumably.
He would seed the full moon.
So play the full moon twice, then you've got 4 creatures, so you could get 8 to 8 Ember. That would be enough for 1 key. Nature's Call could get you up to. It could get.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You full moon
with a Nature's Call, but then.
I don't know. I actually have to look.
Yeah.
To see whether or not that works. But he has to basically has to, which is possible. He would need a bunch of cards, but he had the he just calls logos.
Yeah, this is the thing, that he's not going to have any cards unless he needs to have whatever he needs already in his archive, because Dammat's just going to keep playing.
So he doesn't have key charge. The other thing is he could seed. I'm just trying to see what he can do. He can seed. Oh, this is super weird.
I don't understand how JayPower comes back unless he is waiting for something to go into his discard that he can then seed.
I think I know what he's doing.
Okay. But what do you think he's doing?
I think he's okay. Well, hold on. Let me look at the deck list again. But
obviously this is difficult because we don't know what's in JayPower's archives. If we could see that, it would be really helpful, kind of figuring like what is happening here out. Dammat saying repeat for 19 minutes.
I'm not quite sure what he's doing. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I have an idea as to what he's doing, but let me see whether or not that makes it.
So you've got a lot of letters in your name that I don't have, but to BDS will say, yeah, like time running out would be the only way that Dammat could win. But what we're functionally saying here is that JayPower can't win either, because what's just going to happen here is Dammat's going to keep doing the same thing, playing Perplexing Sophistries repeatedly to discard JayPower's whole hand. So unless JayPower has something in archive along with something in dependency that he's waiting to get discarded, I don't see any other way out of this. Because Dammat is just going to get to such an amount of Ember that if it goes to the time breakers, it doesn't matter. Like
Jason's not winning on time. That's not me.
Never. So I think he must be waiting for something to go into his discard that you can use an dependency on. But I'm not sure what. Because I don't...
Oh, I think I know.
Okay.
Well, actually, okay, so that doesn't actually... Well, oh no, I he just discarded it.
Okay, what?
Graft.
But how did Graft doesn't help, because if Dammat forces a key, he wins.
No, I was just... I don't know what's happening here. I'm not what's happening. I'm just trying to think. I'm looking at Dammat's deck and seeing what cards he could have. There are... Okay.
I don't think Dammat's deck's relevant here, because I think Dammat's just going to keep doing the same thing now, turn after turn, until JayPower needs to find a response to this. And if he doesn't, I just don't... Dammat just keeps doing this, because why wouldn't he?
Oh, no, of course he's going to keep doing this. That's not the answer. I'm just trying to... So Jason has to have a theory.
So what is your theory for what Jason does here then? If you could spell it out for people in the chat too, that would be...
So there are... Okay, I'm looking at the cards in Dammat's deck. Because there's like weird capture pip stuff that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure what's happening. Hold on, I'm looking.
So, 'cause I think what we need to work out here is what Jason can do here. So,
Well, he has it or he doesn't. I think there's a scenario where he could have it.
because I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this turn because you've got pretty much Jason's whole deck in his discard. So anything that he's looking for presumably is in his discard right now. He's going to choose Untamed, so presumably he has the out that he needs here.
I don't know that he has. I don't know that he can have it. I'm trying to think. He has 6 cards.
Ooh, yeah. Trying to see what Jason's discard is. Give me one sec. So here we go.
He's got Shota. He's got Nature's Call.
So there's nothing that's been added from Untamed this turn that you'd want to hit with a Defense Seed. So presumably...
Right. So he has almost all of the people. He has Full Moon, Shota. I mean, again, there's one card in deck, so I don't know what the one card. Other than that, he's got Full Moon, Shota, Nature's Call. How many other creatures does he have access to?
The thing is, so he's got a Tantadlin and a Witch of the Wilds in his discard. So he's only got, in terms of creatures, the other Tantadlin and the Chota Hazri.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, so he plays Full Moon. He's just
Chota Hazri. So
he's conceding.
There it is. Yeah, because we're going to see the Nature's Call here, presumably to return those.
Well, that's.
And ask, can he pull out something in the Defense Seed? I don't believe there's anything the Defense Seed can do here. Plays a Tantadlin. I don't think so. I think this is.
Well, he puts one extra card in the discard.
That's game. Dammat's gonna forge his 3rd key.
No, he won't. Not now.
Oh no, because Heart of the Forest, of course. Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
he put one extra card in discard. I don't remember. I don't remember what Dammat has in terms of draw in Shadows.
So Nature's Call is back in the deck, right? Am I right thinking that?
He could have drawn it to hand, but yes, it's back in the deck. And he leaves Seed on the board. So this is what I will say. Jason thinks he has a lot, right? Jason is never dirtle the time. So Jason has an idea of what he can do. I'm trying to figure out what the idea.
Yeah, I mean, and also just going to time doesn't help Jason in this scenario either.
Like if he literally had no way to win and was convinced he had no way to win, he might have no way to win, but he is not convinced that he has no way to win because if he was, he would have just conceded. So there is
So
there is something that he thinks that he can do, whether it's by a misplay or
Dammat presumably thinking as well here, going right. If Jason thinks he has a way out, I've got to figure out what this way out is to make sure I don't play into that somehow too.
So okay, let's work this out. So he has Seed on the board. He could seed for something and discard. If he keeps discarding his hand, he could seed for something and discard. What is the thing that he could seed for? He could seed for a Nature's Call. I'm trying to think of what the seed is.
So yeah, Dammat going to go into Shadows, and presumably we're going to do the same.
Actually, rolling it back, if he seeded for... No, that doesn't work. I was going to say if he had seeded for Knowledge's Power and played it to gain 6 Amber, but then he has all the Shadow Steel in the house that he's doing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not sure what is occurring here.
I think what we're going to see here as well is maybe we're going to see the Bone Knithing fall into something, because it's got that draw pip on it, so if it gets drawn with the Perplexing Sophistry, you can steal an Ember from JayPower too. Do that as well. Yeah, maybe Mug the Bow, suggestion from Dave here. We will see. But yeah, Dammat understandably, I think, just like puzzling this out, making sure he's not making... I think the game is on a knife edge here, because, like you said, Jason clearly has a line here that there's something happening. And if you're Dammat, you want to make sure you don't make a misplay here, because this is the crunch bit, I think.
He's under the impression that he has a line.
I think we can fully see why, because he's gonna mug the Chota Hazri, fight the Chota Hazri off the board, and then he's gonna start the Perplexing Sophistry loop. And I'm just gonna keep the discard open for JayPower at this point. because I think it's going to be relevant no matter what stage of the game we're at. So, I think it's going to be useful information. And yeah, it's just going to keep playing this Perplexing Sophistry, clear out Jay's hand here. And discards the Mimicry as well. And yeah, so 43 Ember for Dammat here, you know, enough to forge what, like 7-8 keys at this point.
Yeah, I mean the Amber at this point. It's just a matter of like, is there a line that
Yeah, and turn 16, here we go, back to JayPower. What is he gonna do here? And there he is, masterfully played. Congratulations on the top floor. There's the concession. Dammat takes the tie, 2-0. In a way I don't think any of us expected, but absolutely genius there for the Perplexing Sophistry play. And
yeah, that was
yeah.
well played. I mean, that was I did not see that.
No.
First time I watched through that. Yeah. That's very interesting.
That was incredible. It's kind of thing where like sometimes with Keyforge it feels like people are kind of playing the same decks, doing the same things, and it's when you see stuff like that you just never even thought of being done. It's always exciting to see. But yeah, so Dammat96 will be moving on to the semi-finals. Obviously commiserations to JayPower as well. And I would agree with Dave in the chat there as well. You know, like Heart of the Forest, it's a card that, as I said at the start, is controversial, but you wouldn't see a game like that was a really interesting setup happening without a card like Heart of the Forest, and that is fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it does. It creates a ton of unique puzzles, and you know, this is a great example of how it appears unwilling. You should always try to look for a way to figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always try to figure out a way, play around it.
Indeed. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll send a quick message to Dammat and Jason, see if they want to have a bit of a chat of that amazing pair of games. So as we see some very nice sportsmanship from both players in the chat there too.
All right.
Jason says he is available, just waiting to see if Dammat is available as well, but otherwise we will just have a bit of a chat with Jason. But yeah, as I say, just incredible games there from both players though. That was just some beautiful Keyforge to watch and to commentate on.
That was a great example of why you know, that's a great example of why not many things, right? Don't give up in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Just like throw the table at the wall when someone plays like, right? I mean, you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And figure out what you have, what your options are, what the tools are. You're at your disposal.
It's also just a really great case of like just showing how important a pilot of a deck is to like you.
For sure, you have to find that, right? I mean, like some people would find that, and there are a lot of people who find that. Whether or not it's just because they weren't looking, they were too upset and they weren't looking, or if it's just they're not not creative enough to find that line, and clearly was.
We're not hearing back from Dammat, so he might have left to go and do something else. But we will start a call with Jason in any case to have a chat. So I'll set that up now.
Hey guys.
Okay. Hey guy. Hey man, how's it going?
Yo,
Well, could have gone better, but it was a fun match.
Yeah.
yo.
I don't think any of us expected that conclusion at all. We also have Dammat as well. Welcome, welcome. Hang on, we're getting a bit of feedback there.
Hi guys.
Hi Dammat, how are you?
I'm a bit excited though.
Yeah, that was two incredible games, and I think especially that second game, both me and Eric were chatting about it beforehand, and we were saying we can't really figure out how Dammat is going to come out of this game with the victory, and we definitely didn't expect to see that. Is that something you kind of had prepared, or did it just kind of come to you in the match?
No, I saw it during a test yesterday. That the sophistry was the only way to win.
Okay. Well, so kind of like when you came up with that in the test, then kind of like it must have been quite a eureka moment. Then I imagine.
Yes. I used also pen and paper during all the match to to be sure.
And obviously commiserations as well to you, Jason. Obviously, I think Eric was saying you played a lot of Heart of the Forest decks, and it's kind of one of your favorite archetypes. Is that something you've ever come up against with a Heart of the Forest deck before?
That is not, but I saw it early on in the game, and that's why I took interesting, not a typical line I'd play. I played out Sanctum and started pushing Amber to make it hard for him to ultimately handlock me and try to stall for some more time while I was setting up my own combo. So I reacted to it almost immediately in game, although I didn't see it in my own practice earlier this week. So, but at the beginning of the game, I saw it and had to react. It was a great line. I was super pleased to see him playing that line.
Yeah, definitely. That's fascinating. I'm just in shock, to be honest. That was such a cool thing to see. I just never would have expected it at all, really. But the first game was kind of excellent as well. You know, kind of probably more of an expected result from that one is kind of like that kind of what you both found in testing that you were seeing Dammat's first deck kind of coming out on top there.
That was what I saw. Obviously, I knew that. It was actually that kind of went back to the ban decision. It was really complicated. This was the most complicated ban decision I had to do for the league because he had two decks that didn't have great Heart of the Forest protection. Although he found the good line there with Leela. I didn't see that line playtesting, so that's why I ended up banning K Miller because I saw those two decks as different, and I was trying to play for match advantage, thinking he would ban Heart of the Forest. And then when he didn't, I knew it was going to be a much more murky, difficult outcome for me in the series. In that match, the first match was definitely very unfavored. I had to play some lines and hope he misplayed, but of course, there were no misplays, so I couldn't take advantage of any lines. It was a great game.
So, Dammat, let me ask you, what went into your ban decision? Why did you ban the deck you banned?
Okay, I banned the sorry, I didn't remember the name. The mass mutation deck.
Fink. Yeah, you banned Fink.
Okay. Because in my test, I saw that my quota against his MM was really hard. In fact, when I saw his ban, I said, "What?" I thought he banned my Worlds Collide deck with Artifact 8.
Yeah, well, so it was an interesting cat and mouse situation, right? Because I think he was. Well, I don't want to speak for him, but
I'll say what it was. I banned K Miller instead of your Worlds Collide deck because I figured you would ban Mother, and it gave me a more favorable overall match outcome.
Okay.
So I was expecting to be good, and do that. But you were even better than what I expected because you found a line on one of the decks I didn't see, which gave you a different ban choice because Fink is my strongest deck in this lineup. And so I'm very impressed. Very impressed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean that really is, because it does totally, like, so I'll ask Jason. Jason, if you had seen that before, if you knew before the ban decision that wasn't out to Heart, in that Leela could do that in response to Heart, would you have changed your ban decision?
Yeah, I would have banned Leela probably over Miller because that would have given him less. I don't think Miller really had good outs against Heart of the Forest. Although the problem with Miller was that it had a lot of bounce effects that I found in my playtesting were strong against Fink because my deck was more board heavy. Is kind of what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, during my test, I saw that with Miller against the Heart of the Forest was a totally locked match because I stopped with all my Untamed in the hand or archive, and I stopped with one key. So the first player that forced the second key lose.
Yes. Just a question for you, Dammat, then. If you hadn't have found that line with Leela yesterday in your testing, would you have banned the Heart of the Forest deck if you hadn't have found that, or would you have still kept your bans the same?
Probably not the same. Was a bit hard. In fact, when I saw his ban, I said, "Okay, that's wonderful, really, the perfect ban."
Yeah,
that's why it was good to find something I didn't find.
that just illustrates the importance of when you're in a situation like this where you have advance notice of what you're going into and you know the decks and you have the ability to practice and strategize in advance. That clearly underscores the importance of doing so, right? For maximum benefit, for sure.
Yeah, of course.
So you guys have obviously both come very far in this KFPL. You both kind of reached the quarterfinals, which means you're also going to be both in KFPL Season 3. How have you found this KFPL playing Triad, and are you looking forward to next season's KFPL with it being a different format of Sealed?
Oh, well, that's an hard question.
I think that the Triad format has been really enjoyable. I think it created lineups that you wouldn't normally see. I know if I was running just a straight Triad, these are not the 3 decks I would choose to run. And it created a lot of interesting matches. I think one of the things I noticed this season was people's banning of my decks varied dramatically between decks, which I thought made it fun because every week for me was very different lineup. And I think going forward into Season 3, the way that the event is structured with 25 sealed decks and sort of a survival aspect to it will be interesting as a way to run an event. I expect it to be fun. It may not quite be as skill testing in some respects as the first 2 seasons, insofar as the variance on the decks might be considerable relative to what we see here, but I think it'll nonetheless be a really fun event.
Okay, well.
Yeah, well, overall, just a really good match. I think some very good Keyforge here, and yeah, congrats to Dammat.
Sorry, just a second.
Ahead.
I must go for the Italian interview. I'm sorry.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you very much for dropping in, Dammat.
All right,
and best of luck in the next round.
Good luck.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys, and thank you, Jason. See ya.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Okay.
So yeah, I think that was a very spectator friendly round of Keyforge. Some pretty close games. people who like Heart of the Forest, that was an interesting matchup to watch. For people who hate Heart of the Forest, that was an interesting matchup to watch. It's very
if you're an anti-Heart of the Forest person, you've seen Heart of the Forest lose, so you're happy. If you're a person who likes Heart of the Forest, you've seen a really cool Heart of the Forest interaction, so you're happy. It's great either way.
Yeah. Indeed.
But yeah, so thank you everyone very much for listening and watching. It's been great. I have been David Baron von Fabulous Lark. My excellent co-commentator has been...
I'm Eric, aka Justice Blinded.
Yep. And it's been a pleasure commentating with you as well. And commiserations to you, JayPower. You've had an excellent tournament, and yeah, congratulations on coming this far.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys casting it today.
Yeah, it's a great game, and it was fun. Thanks for having me. It was fun. It was fun doing this with you. And I think we have one more today for those who are watching still. One more to promote. I think there's a game.
We do indeed. Yep. So in about just under an hour. So at 6 o'clock my time is going to be, I believe it is Lorenzo versus Dr. Sheep 422, and it's going to be, I think at the moment, myself and Callum once again. So feel free to be sure to tune into that. It's going to be a really interesting game, another transatlantic clash that you're going to be seeing. And yeah, but as I say, thank you very much for listening. I've been Screechbomb Commentaries, and we'll see you again at the next one. Bye bye.